We have been invited into the kitchen of dietitian and body image coach Brittany Braswell, and thank you so much, Brittany, for taking time to talk with us. In learning about your business, the Joy-Filled Eater, I've really been intrigued, and it just seems like a wonderful way to approach healthy eating. So, share about your journey as far as the business itself, and how you're helping women in our community.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love when it comes to food and nutrition is that it's so practical. It's something that everybody has to do every single day. And so my perspective on it is it doesn't need to be full of guilt and shame. It needs to be full of joy. And it needs to be something that we can enjoy with family, with friends, in non-pressure situations. And so often, especially as women, even in the church, we have a tendency to feel like there's this one right, best, perfect way that we should be eating. That word "should" is thrown around a lot. And so something that I do with a lot of the ladies that I work with is really focus on how can we have a healthy non-diet approach to food. So how can we learn how to eat in a way that fuels our physical health without throwing our mental health in the trash in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So really that I think makes it unique from other wellness programs is that you're bringing in that component. And you really bring in the Christian faith part into the program as well, right?
Yes, it's very important to me. One reason for that is because the Lord, gave us food. He made our bodies to need to eat. And so it makes sense to invite him into that process and for that to be part of the foundation for not just what we choose to eat, but taking care of our bodies in a way that makes us a good steward.
Absolutely. So talk about some of the practical things that you share with women when it comes to joyful eating.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest things, Lori, is making sure, again, we don't want people using that word "should." I should be doing this. It creates a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And one of the big ways that starts when it comes to food is people look at something like berries and they go, oh, this is healthy. And then they might look at something like muffins, or you'll hear people just say carbs in general, right? Fruit is also a carbohydrate. But we get this moralizing idea of good food, bad food, or this is healthy and this is junk, or this is clean and this is, trash, whatever. And so one of the big practical ways that we approach food is letting go of moralizing labels. So we know foods are all nutritionally different, but they're morally neutral. And so being able to throw out the good food, bad food kind of language can really help you start having a healthier relationship with food, and not just healthy, but beneficial.
Absolutely. So really there's so many components, I feel like, to your ministry. You have, tell us about the programs. I know you have programs, you have a podcast, you have a newsletter.
Yes.
Share about that broad scope.
Yeah, so I love to talk. I love to teach. If teaching was a love language, that would probably be mine. So I do have a podcast. It's called Faith-Filled Food Freedom. For that reason, we want to talk about how do we develop a healthy relationship with food, but not just food, with our body image and with Jesus in the process. And so that's what the Joy-Filled Eater is all about. So what we do is we walk women through my signature program inside the Joy-Filled Eater course.
Okay.
And I have been in the dietetics eating disorder space for 13-ish years now. And so I've worked with enough women to see the types of struggles and the processes that happen over and over again. And so inside the program, we specifically go through this framework that I have to try and keep you from backtracking. Because I don't know if you have ever worked with anyone or on any goal, but when you get to a new phase of the process and something difficult comes up, you may go, oh, okay, we got to talk about that before we can do the next thing. And so we really go through a very step-by-step process to try and make sure we're covering our foundations. Because with so many people, when you come up with a goal and you have a goal for your physical or mental or even spiritual health, it's really easy to just say, what do I need to do? Like, what are the behaviors I need to change? And when that happens, we don't get the foundational structure or the foundational pieces in place that allow that consistent behavior change. So we look at recognizing things like, what do you really believe? Not just about food or your body, but about the Lord and about your relationships, and how does that all play into your identity, and how you're viewing your worth and your value, and how does that impact your body image? we could probably sit here and have a whole conversation about the different ways we've thought about our bodies over the years, and the kind of conversations that I have with women week in and week out about, oh, I wish this was different, and I wish this would change, and I don't like this area, and this is my problem area. And so being able to go through and really foundationally know, who am I? Who am I in Christ? How am I allowing my body image or my relationship with food to impact that? Yeah. And then from there, we can really focus on strengthening our habits when it comes to physical, mental, spiritual health, and how do we bring the Lord into that process from the get-go.
So do you work with the women online, in person? How does that work?
Yeah, so both. So inside my program, it's all virtual, which I love because I sort of accidentally came into private practice after being in an eating disorder treatment center, and it sort of coincided with COVID by accident after maternity leave. And so I love working online with women because whether you were in Huntsville or California or Birmingham or the UK, you have a way to access Christ-centered support. And so I love that. I also do love being in the room, so I'm so glad we get to be here, not on Zoom today. So I love to get in rooms with women, have that kind of workshop-style coffee shop conversation, and just be able to walk women through the process, answer their questions. So I get to do that in capacities like women's ministries at churches and small groups and community organizations, mom groups, and that's really fun for me as well. So it's fun to get to have that combination.
Well, and I, in listening to your podcast, I feel like you really hone in on some very practical, specific things. So I listened to the most recent one, and it hit home with me because of the idea of, I remember as a child, and even for my own children, talking about eat everything on your plate and then you can have dessert.
Yes.
And the idea of rethinking that. Share just a little bit about that. I just think as far as people understanding what they can get by listening to that podcast.
Yeah, so in this particular episode, I always heard, and it's meant well, it's meant to be fun and silly, but save the best for last on your plate, right? And one of the things that does, when we save the best or our favorite, really is kind of what that means, right? If we save our favorite thing on the plate for last, we are oftentimes ignoring our hunger and fullness in the process, or we end up with this lower level of satisfaction, which is the enjoyment piece of things. And so when you get to the end of a meal and you're waiting for this one thing that you really love, it's hard to enjoy the process along the way, and it kind of creates this scarcity or this urgency that, okay, I got to eat all this stuff to get to this one thing, right? Or as a kid, you need to clean your plate, you need to eat the vegetables before you can have the dessert.
Yes.
Every parent is guilty of this at some point. I'm sure I have said it in the last week, we need to eat a little bit more. We probably shouldn't have the cookie dough until we've had something, right? Some chicken nuggets or something, right? And that's okay. But the more we do that, and when that becomes a habit, we create this hierarchy of foods, even unintentionally. And we go, these are the good ones, right? Or I have to have these in order to earn this other food, and then I'm going to rush through it to get to this one thing because I earned it.
Yeah.
And so even just simple things like looking at, hey, how can I eat a variety of foods on my plate without, again, kind of moralizing or putting one on a pedestal? Because that's what happens. We're in the South. I'm in the Chelsea area, and so, I don't know, a half hour down the road, we have the Bluebell Creamery, which I love, right?
Yes.
Bluebell is a staple. And so if I just say, oh my gosh, I can't have Bluebell in my house because if I eat one bowl, it's going to turn into 3. These are some things that we work through inside the Joy-Filled Eater.
Change, right? You can change your thinking.
You can change because food is a food. It doesn't have to be this moral thing. And so that can be one little red flag, right? If you go, oh, I can't keep that in the house. That's a no-go, that I'll eat the whole thing in a day. It doesn't mean you have an eating disorder necessarily, but it means there's room for some freedom in your relationship with food. You don't want to be captive to that food.
Right. So I was going to ask you in terms of, people recognizing, hey, that they themselves maybe do have an issue, or maybe they, have a daughter, a young daughter or something like that, or a teenager, and they're a little concerned. Yeah. What would be some signs, I guess, to look for that, hey, we might need to look at this?
It's a really great question because I hear this from parents and spouses a lot too, because the women coming to me already know they're struggling, but I'll get questions from people I'm not working with yet or have listened to that podcast, and they're like, oh, hey, I think this might be an issue. The probably most noticeable one for most people, and this works across the board, doesn't matter what body size, shape, composition you are, is the food noise. So the constant food-related thoughts, oftentimes constant body-related thoughts, going, I feel like I shouldn't have eaten that. Or what am I going to eat next? Or what's coming? Or because I ate this, now I can't eat this later. Or now I feel like I have to go do this other activity to earn the next meal. And so a lot of these food-related thoughts.
Okay.
And then same kind of thing with the body. If you are tied to your scale, if your scale gives you permission to eat or not eat or move your body in a certain way, if it dictates your thoughts or behaviors because it went up or down or it didn't move, it's a really, really big red flag that there is definitely a lot of room for freedom there. And again, that's not something you have to stay captive to.
Right. And I would imagine over the years that you have seen some real success change stories where women have really gained freedom in a way, right?
Yes, and that is what drives me to do what I do every day, Lori. It's why I love it, because as hard as some of these conversations are to have, I had a client that went through my program, and I remember at the very beginning, maybe our first or second coaching call, she said, she had just finished Easter Sunday morning at her church, and she said, Brittany, I have no idea what the sermon was on yesterday, because I went in and I was so worried about what the people next to me thought about how I looked, about how my dress fit, and about what my hair looked like, and about my body. And she was so self-conscious, Laurie, that she was like, I don't even know what the message was on. I couldn't pay attention. And after going through the program, having a chance to really not just learn, it's so easy to learn. It's so easy. We have unlimited access to information these days. And so when you can really start taking what you're learning and practicing it, it's so hard with this, because if you have food fears and you go, I can't eat the muffin, I can't do it, it's too scary, and you learn like, okay, I need to develop the skills to help me be able to tolerate the first time I eat the muffin. You start practicing them. We over the course of about 6 months or so, we get to the end and she goes, Brittany, I just have to tell you something. And I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, okay, what's it gonna be? Is it good? Is it bad? And she goes, I have so much more brain space than I used to. She said, physically, I feel loads better because I'm not restricting. I have energy. I'm sleeping better. I'm not like, the food noise is gone, but I can actually be present. I can enjoy my family. I remember what I did last week. She was in college, and she had told me after her first semester, she said, Brittany, I have no pictures of my first semester of college because I was so body conscious, didn't want to be in front of a camera.
Wow.
And she just started crying. And I wonder how many people look back and go, I wish I had been in that picture. Or I got in the picture, but I'm like, hiding behind everybody else. Right. So those kind of stories keep me going and keep me knowing that there's always another level of food freedom that we can get to, even if whether you feel like your food related thoughts are really intense or they're just popping up sporadically, if they're changing your behaviors or keeping you from really enjoying life or not feeling physically your best, there's room for some growth.
All right, so in terms of people getting in touch and then learning more, what are some great ways to do that?
Faith-Filled Food Freedom, the podcast is, I hang out there every Tuesday. Now comes out once a week. So that's really fun. I give most of the episodes are under a half hour, 20 minutes, give or take. Some of the guest interviews go a little bit longer. So we give lots of education, but practical tips and strategies there, which is really fun for me. And then of course, if anyone is interested, I send it out once a week. My newsletter is called The Full Plate Press. And it's just a fun way for me to tell a story, share something behind the scenes, give you a peek into the podcast episode. I always like to send a fun food or nutrition meme just to keep something fun. I send recipes sometimes.
Awesome.
So it's a great way to just stay in touch and get some free resources. So would love.
So now how would we do that if we want to get the newsletter?
If you want to grab the newsletter, you can head to www.brittanybraswell.rd.com/VIP. Get the newsletter there and you stay in touch. I'll send you the podcast episodes if you want to hang out with me there as well. And then of course, would love to, for anyone who says, hey, that's me, I definitely need a greater level of freedom. You can always come hang out with us inside the Joy-Filled Eater course, and that's on my website, BrittanyBraswellRD.com/course.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to share with us and for the ministry that you're doing to help so many people.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Love what I do. I love that we got to have a good conversation today.
Absolutely.